Hi Year 12, in this video I'm working through question 22 of the 2024 Western Mathematics trial that we were working through in class. The question states that rugby games are being played in Perth, Australia, which is at UTC +8, Cape Town, South Africa, which is UTC +2, and then Buenos Aires, Argentina, which is UTC -3. It's probably worth noting before we move on that UTC is Universal Time Coordinated. So it's just a way to refer to times across the world, with UTC 0 being the reference point. So we're told that all games are on Saturday, and the Buenos Aires and Cape Town games will both start at 3 p.m. in their local time, and the Perth game will start at 7 p.m. local time to Perth. So part A, at what time in Perth would the live stream of the game in Cape Town begin? So to do this, we need to be able to move from whatever time it is in Cape Town to whatever time it will be in Perth. And what I'll do is I'll draw up a line to represent time, and maybe we'll put right in the middle, we'll call that the Universal Time Coordinated, so that's effectively time 0. So I'm going to lay onto here the different movements from time 0 that we've got for each of our cities. So Perth, we're told, is at +8, so I'll put that here, an 8, that's Perth. Then we're told Cape Town is at +2, so maybe I'll put that here at +2 is Cape Town. And then Buenos Aires is -3, so we're going to go past the UTC, and I'll just put it here at -3. It's not perfectly to scale, but it should be good enough. And essentially, to move between different positions on this line, we're just asking how many hours do we have to move in the positive or negative direction to get from one city to another. So part A wants us to move from the Cape Town game, which is at +2, to the Perth game, which is at +8. So that's effectively a movement of +6 hours. So the way we could write this up, we could say Cape Town, it was 3 o'clock, so 3 o'clock p.m. On the Saturday in Cape Town. What will that be equal in Perth? Well, I just take 3 o'clock and I add 6 hours. And 3 + 6 is 9, so that will be 9 o'clock p.m. Still on Saturday because we haven't had to cross through midnight, and that is in Perth. So that's how you could lay out your working to get the mark for that question. Part B is saying at what time in Perth would the live stream of the game in Buenos Aires begin? So it's basically the same question, but now we're just starting from Buenos Aires instead of from Cape Town. So we're still moving in the positive direction to get to Perth. And the question is, how many hours have we had to move? And we have to move 3 hours to get to UTC, and then another 8 hours from there to get to Perth. So that's in total 11 hours. Now, at this point, we are going to cross through midnight, and so we're going to move from Saturday into Sunday. And there's a few options here for how you can do this to be careful and not make any mistakes. The first option is to simply count with your fingers. That's often what I do, particularly when I'm having to cross through midnight. But another simpler option in this particular case, because 11 is so close to 12, and jumping 12 hours is quite an easy thing to do, because if we're starting at 3 p.m. on Saturday, jumping forward 12 hours would just be 3 a.m. on the Sunday. Moving 11 hours would just be moving 12 hours and then coming back 1 hour. And that's probably the easiest way to do this particular question. But that said, you could count with your fingers and you'd probably get to the same point. But here what we can say is 3 o'clock p.m. on Saturday in Buenos Aires What would that be in Perth time? Well, as I mentioned, we'll get to 3 o'clock a.m. on Sunday because we've passed through midnight, and then we come back 1 hour, which would put us at 2 o'clock a.m. on Sunday in Perth time. All right, so that's how we can get part B. And now we move on to part C, which says each of the games lasts for 110 minutes, which is including the halftime break and stoppages. Brody attends the Perth game and then goes straight home when it finishes. It takes him 40 minutes to get home to watch the other games on his widescreen TV. How many minutes of streaming will he miss and of which games? So basically what we need to work out is what time will Brody get home, and then we can use our answers in part A and B to see, okay, well, if Brody gets home after those start times in Perth time, how many minutes would he have missed? So I think step one is let's find out what time Brody gets home. So Brody, let's call it arrival home. The way we can work that out is we know we're starting at 7 o'clock p.m. because we know that's when he's out at the game in Perth. And we need to add to that 110 plus 40 minutes. And 110 plus 40 is 150 minutes. And given there's 60 minutes in an hour, 1 hour would be 60, 2 hours would be 120, and then we've got an extra 30 minutes. So that's 2.5 hours. So we're really going 7 o'clock p.m. plus 2.5 hours. And again, we can count that out, or we can just say 7 o'clock plus 2 hours would get us to 9 o'clock, and then an extra half an hour would put us at 9:30 p.m. on the Saturday. And that's in Perth time. So knowing that, we can now state our conclusion. We could say, therefore, Brody will miss, and let's think of these games one at a time. So if we say we're getting home at 9:30 on Saturday in Perth time, the Cape Town game, which started at 9 o'clock Perth time, Saturday, we're going to miss 30 minutes. So we'll say 30 minutes of the Cape Town game. And then for the Buenos Aires game, that starts at 2 o'clock a.m. Sunday. So if Brody's home by 9:30 p.m. Saturday, he doesn't miss any minutes of that game. So we'll say 0 minutes of the Buenos Aires game. And I think that's all we need to do to get those 2 marks. I would guess it's either going to be 1 mark for each of the correct minutes lost, or alternatively, maybe it's 1 mark for getting the time arrived at home, and then 1 mark for getting the minutes lost. Either way, what we've shown here should be enough to get those 2 marks. So hopefully now that you've seen that working, that's a question that you could confidently attempt on your own. I think the key there was all about understanding the universal time coordinated system and then being able to move between different times by counting hours left or right, depending on which direction we're moving. All right, tick boom.
We bring the boom. That's what we do.